Hello there guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review. So today I'm going to be doing a long overweighted catch up for Rebecca and Ziad. I haven't really found their story this season that scintillating, but Ebird wouldn't be Ebird without 1. Strong opinions and 2. Over-analysis. So here goes. If you haven't done so yet, please press that big red subscribe button, join the Ebird family, and also don't forget to like the video. And I nearly forgot, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Ebird Online. Right, so without further ado, I give you Rebecca and Ziad. So guys, I think I'm going to say something which is going to surprise a lot of you. As you know, Ziad wasn't on my favourites list last season, or in fact, what season was he on? About 3 seasons ago. And when Rebecca was in Tunisia, I really found him to be very controlling, very uber masculine, and just generally fairly unreasonable and quite tricksy as well. Who can forget him borrowing money from Rebecca so he could buy her own engagement ring? And so when we started out this season, I thought, oh, we're going to have more of the same. When Rebecca was talking to his sister, and you know his sister was really offhand with her, and as she usually is, just kind of smirking and laughing, I did honestly think, Rebecca, what are you doing? This can't possibly work, this is ridiculous. This man has no respect for you, and all he wants to do is get to America. And so I've had somewhat of a turnaround. So whilst I do think that Ziad's main aim is to get to America, I also think that he does love Rebecca as well. Stand by for evidence. So the first time that Ziad behaved in a way that I thought that he wouldn't was when he first flew in, and as you know it's a very long flight, and he did arrive in America and he looked pretty knackered, and then we had, I think her name's Tiffany, Rebecca's daughter there, and her son-in-law, and they were both, how shall we say, very anti-Ziad, and they insisted on, as soon as he landed, whisking him away for lunch and then just firing stupid questions at him. And as you all know, we see the worst side of people when they're tired. But I think that Ziad took it really, really well. And at one point, this little pipsqueak with tattoos, if you do anything, we're going to have a problem. Mika, you already have a problem. You're you. Honestly, as I was watching it, I thought, Ziad, at this point, you would be well within your rights to grab him by the scruff of the neck, pull him over the table, and laugh in his face. Do you think you little pipsqueak, are anything on me? Don't make me laugh. But that wasn't all. At the very same meal, they made it far, far worse by going on about this Moroccan that Rebecca used to be married to. Now this sometimes amuses me because Ziad and all of Ziad's family think, but he's Moroccan, we're Tunisian, we're nothing like each other. And I find that quite amusing because I guess it's like somebody saying to someone in England, you're similar to somebody from France, would be like, oh no we're not, come on now, GDP. Sorry, I'm getting shady. But yeah, Ziad always gives me the impression that he believes Moroccans and Tunisians are chalk and cheese. But as far as Tiffany and her partner are concerned, not only are they exactly the same thing, but Ziad is suddenly exactly like Rebecca's ex. Now, imagine that that's true. Imagine Ziad is planning to do exactly what Rebecca's ex did. Whose fault would that be? It would be Rebecca's. Because Rebecca, why are you at 49 entertaining 27-year-olds or 26-year-olds from the other side of the world? So they're having a massive go at Ziad for basically being Tunisian. Just because somebody else from North Africa did something else bad to Rebecca doesn't mean history is going to repeat itself. But if you really wanted to stop that narrative being even possible, the person you'd have to address it with is the person that's facilitating everything, and that's Rebecca. That's your mother. Go. Come on, Tiffany, it's go time. So yes, as highly irritating as that was, Ziad kept a lid on the whole thing. And another thing I noticed was the fact that Tiffany was saying, oh, my mum's all over Ziad, but Ziad looks like he couldn't care less. And when they were in the back of the car, I know that Rebecca was trying to snuggle to Ziad, and he was kind of sitting in quite an upright position saying, yeah, so beautiful, so amazing, America, oh yeah, really beautiful. But the fact of the matter is, as Rebecca has explained ad nauseum, Ziad is very religious, and he really doesn't like personal displays of affection. I accept that, and they should too. So the next thing that's really impressed me about Ziad was how Ziad reacted to the apartment. The same apartment block that Rebecca lived with her ex in. And they had to park in the same car park that Rebecca's ex parked in, walk up the same stairs that Rebecca's ex had walked up, and breathe the same bloody air that Rebecca's ex had breathed. Rebecca, you gotta give all this what I did with my ex a rest now. It's getting kinda boring. But anyway, when they arrived at this apartment, And I have to say, it's a beautiful apartment. I love exposed brick. I like big warehouse spaces. Not for me to live in, but you know, I like them aesthetically. Ziad was like, wow, I really like it. So Ziad walked in and there was literally no furniture in the apartment. Rebecca explained that everything was in storage and she only had time for the absolute essentials, a little mattress, her makeup, her ring light and her catfishing software. She only had time for the bare essentials. Sorry, Rebecca. But the worst thing of all was there was a shopping trolley right in the middle of the apartment. Oh, Rebecca, don't you know the only thing that separates man from tramp is the use of a shopping trolley? Ziad was so good about it. He said not a word. He said, no worries. And Rebecca said, I just didn't have time to get everything out of storage. Little bit fishy, but we'll come to that later. But again, he took it really well. No moaning, no complaining. And let's think back to what Yara said when she came in and there was a broken table in the middle of the room. And what Natalie said when she got to Mike's and the place was pretty dirty. They were unhappy because you've been knowing I'm coming for 6 months and this is how far you got. So really, in my mind, Ziad would have been in his rights to say, why didn't you at least just get me a sofa? But he just got on with it and said not a word. Do you guys see where I'm coming from? I'm really starting to like Ziad. So the next time that Ziad really impressed me was when Rebecca's ex-boss Melanie came over to the apartment. And she was basically, again, quite off with Ziad. Even if you think I'm going to try and find out what his game is and try and work out if he's lazy or if he wants to ride off Rebecca. But instead of doing that in a normal and polite manner, which is very easy to do, she decided that she was going to go in for the jugular. So she started off by saying, where are you going to work? What are you going to do? What were you doing today? And when he said I was playing computer games or whatever, she was like, why don't you find a job? There are many jobs you can just walk to from this apartment. Melanie, you haven't looked into the first thing. And Rebecca had to explain that he couldn't work until he got his green card. But that didn't stop her. She then started bollocking on about how similar he was to Rebecca's ex. And she, like all of the other people in Rebecca's life, had 2 years to get rid of Ziad, had 2 years to introduce her to maybe somebody else in America or whatever. You sat on your hands and now Ziad's here. You think, right, let's start pointing fingers and having a go at Ziad. There are 2 people in this relationship. And so when the whole thing didn't work about saying, why aren't you working? She decided to say, oh, did you know that Rebecca used to live here with the Moroccan? And she did 2 things. One, whether Rebecca had told him or not, it was not for you to bring up. And secondly, there was no benefit from you telling him that bit of information anyway. Let's imagine for a second that Rebecca owned a property. She would have just moved her ex out and moved the new person in. You don't sell your home every time you have a new relationship, do you? So a lot of people end up sleeping in the actual same bed that somebody has slept in with their ex. So all this, oh my God, we're in the same building, is background noise. But again, Ziad's reaction impressed me. He wished he'd have known, and I 100% get that. I hate to be blindsided by anything. It's the worst. But he didn't go mad, and ended up just discussing it and talking it through. So the next time that Ziad impressed me was when they went for a meal with Tiffany and Misha, and there was one of Tiffany's friends there, and she was kind of low-key flirting, or can we say excessively friendly with Ziad. I think she kind of liked what she saw, but she knew very well that he was with Tiffany's mum. But I kind of feel as if she was doing that thing which I guess girls and guys do, which is to say, I like what I see, I'm being super friendly, and if ever you 2 fall out, I'm here. You know, kind of like Minty style. If this doesn't work out, I'm here. And so anyway, her family apparently have removal vans, and she said that she wouldn't mind helping Ziad move Rebecca's stuff into the apartment whilst Rebecca was at work. But Rebecca was absolutely fuming. She said absolutely no way. And then later on to Ziad, she said, in America, if any woman offers you to do anything, you always just say no. Is that correct? I kind of don't feel like it is. I kind of feel it was only the case because she was feeling weird because she was sat at a table with 20-year-olds. But guess what, Rebecca? That's what happens when you go out with a 27-year-old. But one thing I will say on Ziad's part is I don't think he was trying to flirt back in any way, shape or form. He gave her no positive signals whatsoever. Those sorts of things happen all of the time, especially in social settings. However, if you're secure with your partner, there's usually no issue. But not only is Rebecca not sure with Ziad, I don't think there's going to become a time when she ever is sure. I think she's always going to be on the back foot. And I have to say, prior to this season, I really didn't think that Ziad was actually a real man. I just thought he was a male variant. I just thought there was quite a little bit of evolution left to go in Ziad, but it turns out I was wrong. And I have to say, Rebecca pulled out all the stops for Ziad, and she made sure she'd done her hair, her makeup, everything for when he landed. She really did look amazing. Maybe it's Photoshop. Sorry, I couldn't help it. And I also like how close Ziad is with his family, and especially his mum. He phones his mum every single morning and lets her know what's been happening. Nothing usually, because Rebecca leaves him on his own about 14 hours a day, while she works back-to-back shifts at Chickenlicious. But yeah, he is super close with his family and super close with his nieces and nephews as well, who he misses. But really what has made me look at Ziad in a different light was what happened last week. And so of course Rebecca doesn't plan on having any more kids. In fact, she can't. And Rebecca introduced him to her grandkids. And Ziad, and you guys, Ziad's an absolute natural with kids. I found him very funny. And between you and me, I do think he'd make a fantastic dad. I really do, for some reason now. And it's almost like when kids are around, he's on their level. Well, I suppose Ziad does like to shop at Gap for Kids. Oh, come on, guys. He does like a tight top or two, doesn't he? If it's not 2 sizes too small, it's not for Ziad. And so when Ziad and Rebecca went round to see her son, Brandon, Ziad was quite nervous and he said, I really hope that Brandon likes him. And I get that this season from Ziad. He's worried about people liking him. He's making a lot of effort with all of her family and all of her friends. And when they got there were loads of hugs. And he gave William, Rebecca's grandson, a massive big bear hug. And they were all joking and saying he's grandpa. But yeah, straight away he started playing baseball with him and football. And Rebecca knew that he was very good with kids because he gets on very well with his niece and nephew. But this, of course, made Rebecca worry even more. And she tells us, I've spoken to Ziad about this before, and he knows I can't have kids. But I do want to revisit this issue one more time, just so that we both know where we stand. So they went for a coffee, and Rebecca said, you know, I've noticed you're brilliant with kids. Do you think that you will want children at some point? And then it cuts to Ziad with producers, and Ziad said, every man in the world did want kids. But God wants me marry Rebecca, so Rebecca can't have. Which I'm pretty sure is not really what Rebecca would have wanted to hear. And honestly, at this point, I thought Ziad's just going to straight up lie to her to secure his bag and to secure his entry into the States. And Rebecca asked him straight up again, are you sure you're not going to want kids? Ziad said, I'm okay now, don't worry. And Rebecca said, but what about down the line? What about a year down the line? If you decide a year down the line you want to have children, you cannot divorce me. Do you understand? And Ziad thought about it for a minute and he said, we not know my life after, we not know your life after. I'm now not thinking about this because if I do, it's going to be difficult for the relationship. I'm okay now, and for now, I'm not thinking for this. So that basically said to me, he doesn't want to think about it right now because it might put a spanner in the works. And he said he's not thinking about having kids now. Maybe not. He's 27, he's just got into the country. But who knows what's going to happen in the future? Well, Ziad, I know. I believe at some point you will want kids. You're so good with kids. You're such a natural. It would actually be a shame for fatherhood not to have you in it. So on that basis, this is on extremely shaky ground. This sounds like a 5, 6, 7 year marriage to me, and then Ziad's off. That's kind of how I read that whole statement. Guys, let me know down below what you thought, but that's how I read it. But then Rebecca did what so many 90 Day Fiancé people do. She decided to repackage what had been said in such a way that if Ziad does do that in 7 years, Ziad's a liar. And so Rebecca actually said these words, I believe in my heart that Ziad is 100% honest and that he's okay with not having kids. When did Ziad say this? Because he didn't say it here. Ziad said, I don't want to think about this now because you don't know what's in your future and I don't know what's in my future. And that isn't the same as, no, I don't want kids now and I know that I never will. That is not the same thing at all. So Rebecca's just repackaged it and said, I hope he's not trying to pull the wool over my eyes and I hope he's as good as his word. He is as good as his word. And his word was, who knows what's going to happen in the future. That was his word. So I do see that as being a potential problem within this relationship. And I'd like to say, Rebecca, you need an appointment with the truth because you ain't telling it. In fact, it's not a problem. I think it would really have to be a deal breaker. Rebecca shied away from asking and digging more at this point and trying to find out, well, do you think that you will want to? And, pressing home the point. She allowed him to say, don't worry for this right now. Don't worry for this. She is worried, Ziad, because it's her future. But I was pleased to see that Ziad didn't just barefaced bullshit to her. And that brings us neatly to this week. And Rebecca, who still doesn't have any furniture in her apartment, found the time to go away for the weekend with Ziad to some kind of log cabin place, and they do weddings there as well, so it's a potential wedding spot. And she said to Ziad, "What do you think about this for a wedding?" And Ziad hit her with the news. "Well, we have to get married in the next 2 or 3 weeks because Ramadan's coming up and we can't get married during Ramadan." Now, I've looked into this a little bit, and you just can't get married during the day. You could potentially get married in the evening, depending on when sundown happens. Obviously, you can't eat any food, and I think you can only drink water during sunup to sundown for about 3 or 4 weeks, I think Ramadan is. So this comes as news to Rebecca, and she said he's just suddenly sprung this on me. And he also explained to her that if we don't get married and we wait until after Ramadan and then we get married in the week that's left over, I have to go and live somewhere else for the duration of Ramadan because it's not seemly for me to be living as an unmarried person under the same roof as you. So she said, well, he's now threatening me, saying that he'll just go and live somewhere else if I don't marry him in 2 weeks. And I guess it is a bit of a bomb to drop, but he was always coming over with a view to getting married, so what's the big deal? Rebecca seems to think she wants the whole 3 months to make her decision. Maybe she does, maybe she's not quite so sure. Maybe she should say, okay, move out for a month then, it's no big deal, and let's wait until the last week and hope that everything's open to actually marry us. I guess you're potentially running the risk of not ever getting married with the current situation. And yes, it's definitely a sticky one. But I think at this point that Rebecca should be thinking about compromising with Ziad because he's compromising by even living with you before you're married anyway. And Rebecca was somewhat upset and she said, I don't want to have a quick wedding and I don't want a courthouse wedding. Even though it's wedding number 4, I still want to have a big wedding. And this strikes me as strange because Rebecca hasn't got the money or the time to go and get her furniture out of storage, but she's got the money to pay for a big wedding. I don't get it. I think it's much better that you save that money and pay for Ziad to have some sort of training so that he's going to have a trade when he starts working or some skills. So that's a little strange. I don't know why they can't just have a courthouse wedding and just invite a few people. But Rebecca, I guess it's a courthouse wedding for you. Otherwise you'll find Ziad contemplating his life while sleeping on a park bench for the duration of Ramadan. And so that's this season in a nutshell. So guys, tell me what you think. Do you like Rebecca and Ziad more this season than you did last season? Do you believe in their relationship? Or do you think that Ziad simply wants to find his way to America and is going to dump Rebecca at the first opportunity? I was pretty sure that that was going to happen from watching them last season, but I think that now Ziad is in America, he's far more relaxed and we see the real Ziad, who's funny, who's engaging, who's caring, and who's really making an effort to make this work and to get on with all of Rebecca's friends and family. And I think the way that 90 Day Fiancé is shot is quite strange because I've watched Rebecca on 2 or 3 interviews and she's actually quite fun, she's engaging, she smiles a lot. She hasn't got that permanent scowling face that she seems to have on the show, and she always looks as if she's in the midst of some teenage angst when she's on the show, and she's completely different in real life. So I think these two together actually would get on and actually would have quite a laugh, so I see quite a lot in their relationship that's good. So I'd love to hear what you guys think in comments down below. And definitely let me know what you think about the whole kid thing. Do you think Ziad's going to end up wanting kids? And do you think that Rebecca's fooling herself in the way that she framed the narrative around, oh, Ziad's just told me now that he doesn't want kids? I didn't hear that at all. Let me know what you think. And in the meantime, I'll see what I can cobble together for Tarik and Hazel. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't done so, subscribe to my channel. Please don't forget to press the like button if you enjoyed the video, and follow me on Twitter at Ebird Online. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you all good day.